Hey, everybody, welcome back to Broke Up, Not Broken. If you're going through a divorce, do not worry, you're not alone. This is your one stop shop for mastering your life and your finances throughout the entire divorce process. Today's guest is Joey Drolshagen. This guy's amazing. I can't wait for you to hear more from him. Combining his life experiences of divorce and struggle, plus his 28-year career in corporate America. Man, you've been around the block some. Along with extensive studies and knowledge of mindset, he has assisted multiple individuals experiencing hardships such as divorce, financial insecurity, which is something I want to talk about a little bit today, stunted business growth, and has developed innovative systems that utilize all the emotional energy caused by life's most upsetting situations to turn them into fuel to launch their life beyond what they could have achieved with that life-altering situation. So utilizing his subconscious mindset training, the SMT method, he helps individuals and organizations across America align their conscious and subconscious minds to their vision, transforming sabotaging behaviors while linking accelerating habits that lead to greater success. His clients refer to his work as the law of attraction on steroids. I'm telling you guys, it's going to be an amazing conversation today. And we all need to be helped in the law of attraction. At least I do. So if you're feeling overwhelmed by your divorce or your current station in life, please don't be. Joseph is here to help us break it down so you can feel confident and prepared by creating a clearer picture, not only your financial situation, but how you can tackle the personal challenges that you're facing. So grab a cup of coffee or your beverage of choice, buckle up, and let's get you personally and financially empowered. Joey, welcome to the show, man.
Oh, it's great to be here with you, Jamie. Even the prep talk we have, come before we talk, pre-talk rather, before coming on here, I'm just really, really excited to have a good conversation here with you.
Absolutely. So, how did we get to be here? Tell me a little bit more about you, the work that you do, and maybe some of your experience with divorce yourself.
Yeah, I did experience a very long, drawn-out divorce that followed by another year-long battle after that to get 50% custody of my son, who was 11 years old at the time. So it was quite the situation. I was born in Detroit, Michigan, a blue-collar family. I watched my parents. The conditioning we grew up with was, if you want something, you got to work your butt off for it, and you got to be willing to trade off, and and all that stuff, and you got to figure it out, and all of those things, and that's what I grew up with. And when I was a kid, I thought, man, something's not right here. And then I got into my 20s, and I got married early at 20, 21, 22 years old. And if something came easy to me, Jamie, I thought I didn't work hard enough for it, so I didn't deserve it. And that's where I came from. But I couldn't stand living in that, like how my parents lived. And so I became a student of the works I do today. And I built a career in corporate America all the way up to a vice president, helping companies, this blue collar kid coming from Detroit, Michigan, helping organizations, millions of dollar organizations go from bankruptcy back to profitability and building territory. It wasn't realistic that I lived the career I lived, but it's not realistic that this kid coming from there, I get to have the results in people's lives I get to have today, So I walked away from corporate America. I've gotten multiple certifications in what I do, and I just kind of stepped out, moved down to the mountains of South Carolina where I love living, and I just started going forward.
Hey, man, that's awesome. So you have this subconscious mindset training, right? That's kind of your bread and butter, so to speak. Tell me more about that, because I'm fascinated by this stuff, and we talked about this, leading up to our conversation today. I'm a finance guy. I've been a financial planner for almost 20 years now. So I've always, fortunately or unfortunately, I operate in the IQ space all the time. And I need to do a better job always of getting more over to the EQ, understanding the emotional aspects of, working with clients and even in my own life. So using the subconscious mindset training and to navigate the financial uncertainties that come with divorce, what is it and how can people use it?
Yeah. So, you talked about the IQ side and understanding the systems and all of that and the savings and how we do that and stuff. And I'm sure you do a great job with all of that. So where I come from is that other side, like if somebody, is struggling with something in their life, and I'm not pinning this on like saying divorce or something, but struggling with anything, somebody in their career not where they want to be, somebody financially not where they want to be, somebody in relationships who's not in that, like getting that love, that that ideal relationship we have. The reason for all of that is the owner of that person who owns those struggles. Because what happens is we have this conditioning in our subconscious. It includes all of our patterns, paradigms, experiences, our habits, all of that stuff. And what happens is that just continues to play over and over and over again. That's the voice we hear in our head. That's the voice that tells us we can't. That's the reason why people get stuck in really bad relationships and they can't get out, because of that conditioning within that subconscious. And if you track backwards in history, you'll see where you can actually tag that where that conditioning came from in somebody's life. So what happens is we'll go forward and, we have the conscious mind, right? It's the words we use, thoughts we entertain, books we read, all of that and everything. And it's important to keep that on the positive aspect and stuff as much as we can. So we know what we want in our conscious mind. Mm-hmm. The subconscious in that motherboard, that's what triggers the brain waves to the actions we take or that we don't take. So somebody that's in a mode of lack, that's in a mode of financial struggle, and they've been conditioned for financial struggle, unless they do something about that programming in the subconscious, they will live the rest of their life in financial struggle. Because that program continues triggering. So when they want to do something, they know something different to do that would break that. I'm sure you run into this with some of your clients with the planning and financials and things like that, where you can clearly show them this is the way to go. And there's something inside them stopping them from taking that action. Mm-hmm. That's that subconscious factor right there that's playing into that.
So this is amazing. And this is really the first time I'm hearing that. And I've been doing this almost 20 years now. And we've always come up against that, whether it's in my traditional financial planning relationships where we do retirement planning and so on. We can give the best and the highest advice that we can give in both divorce and traditional financial planning. We always try to give the best financial advice we can give. And there always seems to be, not with everybody, but with a good portion, probably 30-40% of the clients I would work with, it's very difficult to get them to move past something.
And it's that conditioning.
So that's where it's all coming from.
Yeah, and I've worked with some financial planners, not specific with divorce stuff, but I've worked with some financial planners with their people. And when they're, when you're doing what you do based on, everything you do with numbers and planning and all that stuff and everything else, which is awesome. And it kind of ties a little bit into what I do, which we'll get into in a bit. But then I come in and I help them identify what that limited conditioning is. Then I can help them quickly shift that. And all of a sudden, those people start opening up in all areas of their life too. You can't just open up in financial planning. You can't just open up in better relationships, or it's across the board when you make those shifts that you start opening up to it. And so one of the things I do, one of the wheelhouses, my wheelhouse, I guess one of them is business owners. So I've helped business owners go from a 13-year high of 7.5 million in revenue, and within 12 months, almost topple over $23 million. And it be the only year of their adult life they took 5 weeks of vacation during that year of growth. We are capable of such incredible things, Jamie. With the divorce stuff, I went through a very, very hard divorce. I was 3 states away from my son, and I won't go into all the gory details and everything, but it was very hard on me. And I went through that divorce. And what I learned from it, though, which was pretty much the premise of the SMT method, is I learned how to take all that emotional energy that's in a situation like divorce and use that to launch my life beyond what I could have ever achieved without that divorce in my life, without that situation, without that igniter in my life. And what happens is we get that. And, I developed a program I was telling you ahead, that Struggle to Soar. It's a 16-week program for people going through divorce. And I've met people who have been divorced 10 or 12 years. And they still, when you run across them and start talking, the first thing they'll tell you about is what their ex is up to, or what they did, or what they're doing now, or how it's hurting them, and they're stuck in that victim mode, which is so sad. But again, it's coming from the conditioning. So what I do is I help them, like you call it planning. What I do is help every client I work with develop what I call a dynamic vision of what is it you want. So picture coming out of divorce, and I know for me, I was devastated, man. I was rocked. I didn't do that with a vision because I didn't know how, and I couldn't. I wasn't at the point within myself to be able to do that. So now we come up with a vision. You take somebody who's gone through a tragedy of a divorce or a loss of a loved one or something like that, and they come out that other side, and now they have this dynamic vision, and all of a sudden they're just launching into what it is. And it's that emotional energy from the divorce we use as the fuel to do so.
It's amazing. So I don't like to stack questions, but I have two questions for you. So the first is, the financial
so you
stress.
literally just stack questions.
I'm just gonna stack questions, and you just like work through them.
I'm sorry.
I'm a terrible interviewer because I stack questions. But I'm also getting old. So if I don't bring them up right now, I'll be texting you at 2:00 in the morning going, "Hey, Joey, remember that thing I wanted to ask you? This is what it is."
Laughing because you and I are in the same place there, man.
Obviously, the financial stress is overwhelming in a divorce, right? So using the SMT method, and I don't want you to have to, I want people to, you deserve to get paid for all of the amazing wisdom that you have.
No,
so
ask me whatever you want.
Let's get a little bit of free advice here. Like what are some of the mindset strategies that you would recommend to help people maintain that emotional resilience as they're not only going through the divorce, but trying to navigate some of these the complex financial questions they have? And then the second question leads to one of the main issues that we come across in our world is a lot of men out there don't get to this touchy-feely stuff. And this is kind of going to the EQ, IQ stuff too. Like a lot of the men don't want to deal with the touchy-feely and all that other stuff. So how do we bring more men into this world to get the financial help and the emotional help that they need? Because 99% of the people we work with are women. I joke about it, but it's, I feel it's like, hey dudes, no offense, but sometimes women are smarter in some things. And in this case, women are smarter because they don't hesitate to seek the advice. So kind of like
that's what it is right there. Yeah. They'll reach out women will reach out much quicker, where men, again, we talked about conditioning, right? John Wayneism. We were raised, where at least, now the generations are a little changing, but we were raised, if you want to, big boys don't cry. If you want to cry, I'll give you a reason to cry and all that stuff and everything. We had to be John Wayne. What I tell people, Jamie, is he wasn't even freaking John Wayne unless the camera was on him.
Yeah.
That's not who he was and how he lived his life, but it was projected to us. It was projected, this is how you have to be. And so we are. When I launched Struggle to Soar, I started out doing it as a men's only program because I didn't want to mix men and women together with it and stuff, and turn it into a dating site or something I was worried about or whatever. But I think the whole length of time I had one man who came in and he got a lot out of it, but I had a lot of women who came in and got a lot out of it. And it's because, IQ smart. I don't know. I think women are smarter than men anyways, but I hate to say that, but in my case, it seems that way. But they're more willing to utilize the resources around them. And men are still in that, I got to figure this out, which is all conditioning.
Yeah. So mindset strategies, handling emotions, what would you say, are some of the key things you want to be thinking about?
Yeah, the first thing I do with every client I work with, and this goes whether somebody's gone through a divorce, lost a loved one, is a business owner, a realtor, an insurance agent or broker, whatever it is I'm working with. I use the same tool to help companies in bankruptcy get back profitability, is I help develop a dynamic vision. Because what happens when we go through a divorce, a lot of that emotional energy that's building is based on what we thought it was going to be, based on all the hurts that led up to the divorce, based on all those things are all just in turmoil, and helping somebody develop a vision gives them hope for something out beyond right now, beyond the divorce, even beyond like being financially secure again and things like that. It gives them something to grab hold of. So instead of having to live with all those emotions that keep us up all night long or wake us up in the middle of the night like a monster staring at us, which is what I had happen, is it helps us have something kind of like a hook to hang our hat on of potential good out there, potential opportunity, potential happiness, potential something out beyond this time. And in doing so, able to, help them then start traversing that gap from where they are now. And it's all geared towards identifying that conditioning, shifting that and opening up. And as we do so, all of a sudden, greater opportunities just start showing up. That vision starts coming to fruition with almost no effort on our part, minimal effort on our part rather than massive actions, exhaustive efforts, and all that stuff. And we start stepping into it, and all of a sudden we see it start opening. So it's about traversing that gap from where I am now, dealing with the divorce, the upsets, like every financials, everything that goes with it, into what life could be and what I want life to be like.
So we do something similar with the financial planning that we do. And it's some of the nuts and bolts, the mathematics of how people can bridge that gap and cross that chasm, right? And like get on the other side, onto the other side of it. So yeah. I guess, this is a financial, podcast, and we focus on the finances. So just shifting more of a focus there as people are starting to think through things like budgeting and managing their finances on their own and things of that nature. That's the scary stuff, right? Like we have a lot of women that we work with. They were not the they were not the breadwinner, and they were not the family CFO. In many cases, their spouse, they worked, they stayed at home with the kids, and the working spouse was the one that handled the finances and paid the bills and so on and so forth. And that's just, I don't want to be stereotypical, but that's kind of what we deal with. So a lot of the women that we work with, and even some of the men we work with, the first time in their life that they're going to have to be responsible for their own finances and managing budgets and cash flow and worrying about all those things that they never had to worry about. So how do we help them bridge that gap with your strategy?
Yeah, that's a great question. And what I'll do with stuff like that is you guys have tools and you have avenues and stuff in the financial planning. I don't have. I'm not licensed there and everything else and stuff. So what I do is once I help somebody get that vision, I mean, if you think about the one who's not working, the person who's at home, right? And now all of a sudden the divorce happens, whether they have to go out and earn money now and do that whole side of thing, take care of the house, do all of those things and everything, that's where the overwhelm and all that stuff that really can lead to major problems and dis-ease or disease in life. So what I do is I help them with that vision. As we start stepping into that, as we start developing systems of accelerating habits and doing things like that and getting that, then I will refer a client to somebody like you for their financial side of things. So even, and I don't wait until they have like $100,000 in the bank. I do it up front so they can start building that as soon as possible. And so even in those avenues, though I don't do that directly, I will guide them to somebody like you who's a professional in that and start working together.
Awesome. So I guess carte blanche, your open mic session, what would you like to share with our listeners that because I'm I don't know all the answers. I don't know what I don't know about the work that you do and all the right questions to ask. So what do you want to share with the listeners that would be important for them to know as they're going through this process?
Yeah.
And you can go back to your own personal experience or what have you.
Yeah, no, I wish when I was going through, I mean, a lot of people told me that, but I wish I would have believed that, there's other side to this whole thing. As painful as it is, as upsetting as it is, as pulling it, I had such a hard time going through mine because my parents, they were married till death did them part. And my dad passed away, and a year later, my mom didn't want to be alive without him and passed. And that's what I always pictured a marriage to be, And in fact, my dad, he got married in a pair of shoes, and he never wore those shoes again, but he had them available to be buried in when he passed away. And, and coming from struggle and stuff like that, the fact that like something like that, that's, so I had a lot of really big upsets within me of feeling like I failed and feeling like all those things and everything. And just to anybody who's going through that, just to give them hope and say, man, there is another side to this. And if you're stuck and you feel completely lost, there's resources available. Anybody can reach out to me at coachwithjoey.com, but there's resources, like men and women, take advantage of those. Take advantage of those for yourself and get alignment with that, counseling, things like that. What I love about what I do is I help people get accelerated results. So I help them quickly move into, once we develop that vision, start moving into bringing pieces of it to life so that they can experience that other side opening up sooner. And the sooner I can help somebody do that. But I mean, counseling, there's so many avenues, but just, you're not alone. And the other thing I wish people would have told me is, when I got divorced, I started hanging out with all my buddies who were divorced. And all that did was extended the pain that I went through and extended the hardship of what it was. Might not have been a good time for me to hang out with married people, but going out with guys that are, and hanging out all the time and talking to them, it builds more of that victim mode,
Wow.
and no matter what happens, there's a brighter side ahead, but we have to be willing to believe that And we have to be willing to lean into some help to get there.
You bring up a fascinating point there. And then one of the things that I always talk about is creating team you when it comes time to drop the dreaded D word and say that you want a divorce. And you want to do this well before you've told your significant other that you want a divorce. That was my biggest mistake. My biggest mistake in my divorce was not surrounding myself with my team you. I was John Wayne. I'm a financial professional. I've been doing this work for many, many years. At the time, I think I had been doing it for 13 years at the time of my divorce. And I just felt like, hey, I'm going to be able to figure out the financial piece of this. Got it. No problem. I'm going to go hire an attorney. We're going to go file the documents. We're going to move through this. It may cost me some money, but I'm going to get this thing over with. And the problem with that was, and I did work with a therapist because I'm a big fan of therapy and the psychology and managing emotions through any phase of life. But I pushed my family away because I felt in my mind I was trying to protect them. And, I didn't want to bring them into the mix. I didn't want them to have to worry about me because I'm located in California. My entire family's on the East Coast. I am kind of out here on an island myself. And that's where it came from. And I just felt like I was just going to protect them and try to and just keep them at arm's length. They would get the information that they needed to know, and that was going to be it. Instead of really, truly opening up to them and sharing with them why I was doing what I was doing and why I felt the way that I did and what my vision for this is and so on, I could have brought them in, and instead that actually pushed people away. And to this day, unfortunately, I have family members that have disowned me because of it. And, so anybody that's listening, I think, what Joey's saying here, you should be taking it to heart and surround yourself with team you, right? Get your friends and family and your loved ones around you. Make sure they're the right people though, because like Joey said, you don't want to be in the quagmire of woe is me in the divorce and things with all these other. You want people that are a positive influence in your life. They're going to be there to support you. Hire a therapist if you need to, hire a divorce coach, hire somebody like Joey. And if you have to, hire an attorney. I feel like
just don't do it alone, because we get stuck in it for so long and it makes it so much harder. And God, I feel for you. I did have some healthy friends and stuff like that as well, that it took me a while to sort through that and figure out which were which. Because at that time we want somebody who's gonna, call the other person names or be angry at the other person or things like that. Like we want to have that. It feels like a closeness in that and stuff, but it's so negative and just it just expands the pain of it so much further out. And the reason it does is because it puts us in a victim mode. Yeah. And now I'll tell you, even in saying that, I had a job in a couple of states over from Michigan over in Wisconsin, and I moved over there and I got the apartment for all of us and everything. And the relocation, they were going to pay for the house and do all that stuff and everything else. And I was over there and I was driving from Indiana to Wisconsin one night and I got a text from my son's mom and it said, "This is awkward, but I filed for divorce today." And that's how I found out. So people go, "You were the victim," but as long as I lived in that victimhood, I couldn't do anything else.
Yeah.
Within a year from there of following these tools that I'm talking about within SMT and the struggle to soar and stuff, is I went up to her and thanked her for everything that happened. And I won't even, if I went into details of what happened, man, and I thanked her for all of it because it helped me learn about me. It helped me understand how I was living as a people pleaser or whatever it is, that I was doing then, trying to latch onto somebody rather than being the strong child of God that I am. And so that in doing that vision brings about that confidence. It brings about that, and like as I started developing those and stuff, it's just amazing how empowering it is.
Yeah.
In a situation like divorce where it feels like it just takes all of our power away.
It is a blessing in disguise. And when people are going through it, and if you're in the middle of it, you're listening to this, it's very hard to believe that other people can understand how you feel and your situation is different. And it very well is, because nobody writes the same story when it comes to this type of stuff. But it is a very similar movie for many of us. And we've all seen this movie before. Joey and I have seen this movie before. And even though we just met each other today, we have very similar stories and backgrounds of what our experience looked like. So keep your heads up out there for anybody that is listening. There are professionals like myself who can help you on the financial planning side. Joey was there to help you on, the mindset stuff. And Joey, and if people do want to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, the easiest way to do is they can go to coachwithjoey.com and schedule a 15-minute appointment with me. 15-minute conversation. We'll just get on there and talk. I've had people call me up and they're just like in tears, they're just at that hurt place, and they've been able to help them at least move something beyond that and stuff. So it's not a sales call. It's not anything like that. It's just a connection point, because I've been there and I know what that's like. And it still pulls at my heart of what people go through at those times.
That's why we do the work we do, right? I mean, I wish I would have done this work years ago, but now we're all just trying to focus on helping as many people as we can. So I will make sure that your contact information is in our show notes for those of you that are driving or not in a place where you can jot down his information. It'll all be in the show notes, so you can contact Joey anytime you like. Our contact information will be in there too if you need help on the financial planning side with our company, Allegiant Divorce Solutions. Joey, I really appreciate this conversation, man. It was a great convo. I learned a lot. I always learn a lot in these, but this one was exceptionally good for me.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, I really enjoyed talking with you as well.
So we will let you go back to your day. Everybody, thank you for tuning in. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, follow all the things you do on social to make sure you get updated content from us. And when new podcasts come out every week, every Wednesday, be on the lookout for them. Thanks again for joining us.